The V8s are finally back in town with a fresh start, new cars, new regulations and new drivers. It all starts here on the streets of Newcastle. Welcome to the THRIFTY Newcastle 500 weekend preview. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Supercars for 2023. Well, it's finally race week and the V8 Circus start their season on the streets of Newcastle for the first time since 2019. But before I run through the schedule and weather and my predictions, I'm just going to cover some news from the week leading into the weekend. So without further ado, let's get cracking. So Supercars have recently released the minimum weight numbers ahead of this weekend season opener. The minimum weight for all cars, which not including driver ballast, is 1,335 kilos, with a minimum driver ballast of 95 kilos, which is slightly heavier than the cars from last gen. Now, of course, Gen 3 was actually meant to be lighter, but in reality, nothing all tends to happen the way we want it. Obviously, if the drivers are under the minimum weight, they will have to carry an additional weight ballast to compensate for the remaining weight. After a last-minute VCAT test at Tamora last week to sort out the parity issues between the Camaro and the Mustang, Supercars have announced that the Camaro's downforce will be shifted from the rear to the front, with the Mustang left unchanged. Now, of course, we saw in the Super Test, Super Test was called in 2015. The Sydney official test day, we saw a dominant performance by the Camaros, with Todd Hazelwood leading the way for the Mustangs in ninth. And Ford has been complaining about just aero balancing, the issues with that. So now whether or not that will fix the parity issues yet to be seen. We probably won't know until the Australian Grand Prix. I don't really think Newcastle will be the best place to get a proper understanding, as it's quite a narrow, tricky street circuit. It's also the beginning of the season. Everyone's a bit raw. No one's been to a street circuit since the Adelaide 500, so I reckon the Australian Grand Prix will be the best to actually determine whether or not the changes are good or not, as it provides more of an open place to do so. Grove Racing have announced their Enduro lineup for Sandown and Bathurst later in the year. It's been confirmed that Porsche factory driver Kevin Estrie will be joining Garth Tander in the Enduros. However, the Grove crew are yet to confirm who will be driving with who. I have a feeling that Tander will be with Reynolds and Kevin will be with Matt Payne. That's just a guess. It's not it's not official, but I have a feeling that's what will happen. Speaking of co-drivers, DJR have announced that Tony D'Alberto and Alex Davison will be returning once again for another year. Adopted Aussie Valtteri Bottas, who of course races in Formula 1 for Alfa Romeo, has confirmed that he'll be attending the Adelaide Motorsport Festival, which is to be held the weekend prior to the Australian Grand Prix. So that will be the March 25th to the 26th. Bottas has announced that he'll be driving an Alfa Romeo GTV. However, he's also hinted at a possible steer of a V8 supercar. Nothing's confirmed yet, but he is open to it. So that will be really cool to see. I reckon he'll have a lot of fun in it. But if you're debating whether to attend the festival or not, and if that hasn't even convinced you, I highly recommend you do so. There's going to be plenty of historic cars, historic F1s, GTs, V8s, just so much more. Of course, they haven't had an event since 2018, so it's been quite a while. No, sorry, think I can't remember if they had one 2019 or not. But I remember going to the 2018 event, and it was really cool to see. And I reckon it's going to be even bigger this year. So I really recommend going. I'll probably end up attending, see how we go. Both the Johnson name and Kelly name return to Supercars, with both Jet Johnson and Mason Kelly. They'll be joining the Super 3 Series for 2023. Jet will be driving a Nissan Altima with Napa Auto Parts as a primary backer. Of course, they sponsored him during his Trans Am campaign as well. Mason Kelly will also be driving a Nissan Altima. However, it's actually his father's car. This is the car that Todd actually ended his supercar career with in 2017. He'll also be running car number 22 as a tribute. Well, I don't know if it's a tribute or not, but in a way it is to when Todd raced for HRT back in the day. Mason will have GTS Freight Management as a primary backer, at least for the season opener. Not only do we have an exciting year ahead for supercars, but Super 2 and /3, both of the categories, is also going to be big. Not only do we have new cars for supercars, Super 2 and 3 have new cars as well. I think this is the first time either ever or in a long time that everyone is starting with a new car. So of course Supercars got the Gen 3, Super 2 have the ZB Commodore and the Mustang, and then Super 3 of course have the VF, FGX and the Ultima. And it was also announced that we will see the biggest Super 2 field yet, with a 29 car grid locked in for Newcastle, which is first off brilliant to see. After the after the Speed Series the other weekend, where we saw like 7 or 10 touring car master cars, or 10 or 12 touring cars. I can't really remember from memory, but I know there definitely wasn't a lot, and it was very disappointing to see. So it's really great to see a series with 29 cars locked in. So that's going to be really cool. It's going to be epic, and I cannot wait. It's also probably going to be a lot of carnage as well, so stay tuned for that. Alright, let's have a quick look at the schedule. It's definitely a busy day in V8 land across the weekend. On Friday, this is, by the way, this is just going to be local time, so New South Wales time. So Friday at 10 past 10, the Super 2s will go out for their first practice session, which is scheduled for 50 minutes. And then 11:15 a.m. Supercars will go out for their first practice session, which is scheduled for 45 minutes. 12:50, Super 2 go out for their second practice session, which is actually a 40-minute session. At 1:45, practice 2 for the Supercars, another 45 minutes, and then at 3:50, Supercars go out for their third and final practice session for the weekend, which is also scheduled for another 45 minutes. So a lot of running for the Friday, which is great to see. Drivers will get a good opportunity to have a proper crack and feel of how the track is, how the car is. Of course, first time in the new car, first time racing the new car, first time returning to Newcastle in 3 years, 3 or 4 years or so, which is crazy. So who knows what Friday will bring. Saturday, 10:25, Super 2 will go out for the first qualifying for their race, which is scheduled for 20 minutes. Then at 11:15, Supercars will have their qualifying session, which will determine the grid from 11 down to 26. That's also 20 minutes. But then at 12:35, we've got the first top 10 shootout of the year, followed by Super 2's first race of the year at 1:50, which is scheduled for 21 laps. And then at 3:20, Supercars, the Supercar season begins with their first race, which is a 95 lap race, which is a 250 kilometer event, race thing, whatever you want to call it. So it's going to be a big one there. And then Sunday, 10:25, Super 2's got their qualifying for their second race, another 20 minutes. 11:15, Supercars have got their qualifying, also 20 minutes. 12:35, Supercars have their top turn shootout. 1:50, so pretty much the same as Saturday. At 1:50, we've got the Super 2 race, which is race 2, 21 laps. But at 3:50, not 3:20 like Saturday, we've got the Supercars second race, which is also another 95 laps. So a big weekend to kick off the season. It's going to be epic. The weather's looking fairly okay. Friday's meant to be sunny. At this point, it's likely to change. Friday is meant to be sunny with a potential cloud cover. Top of 27 with the low of 21. Saturday's meant to be a bit nicer, a bit hotter as well. Not meant to have any cloud cover. It's meant to be sunny with the top of 30 and 22 for the minimum. And then Sunday is meant to be a repeat of Friday pretty much, with sunny with cloud cover, top of 27, low 21. So it looks like there might be potentially avoiding rain, as I think it's meant to rain on the Monday. At this stage, it's probably, who knows with weather these days. It's probably going to be bloody bucketing down, or it's going to be super hot. Who knows? Now, before we finish, I want to get into predictions. So what I'm going to be doing for this season, when I do a weekend preview, I'm going to be doing predictions as well. So this will be both for Saturday and Sunday. I'll be saying who I reckon will get pole, who will be the top 5 finishers, and who I believe will be the driver of the day for that day. And then we'll see how we go when we do the report, see how well I predicted. So I don't know if this is going to be accurate or not. This is exciting, but I really hope this is actually. As there's a couple that I really want, to do well. So starting off with Saturday, I reckon Shane Van Gisbergen's just going to, get pole. I can see him doing it. He's obviously very strong at street circuits. He's well in his prime lately. We saw how well he was last year. I reckon he's just going to repeat it again. And I reckon he'll also turn that into a win for the season opener. Followed by Cam Waters. So similar to what we saw last year. But I also reckon Andre Heimgartner will be in the running for a third place. He actually topped the timesheets for the official test day at Sydney Motorsport Park. So the car's looking quite strong, and he's quite talented as well. So I'm hoping he does well, and I reckon he can as well. Fourth, I reckon Anton De Pasquale with Mostert rounding up the top 5 in the Walkinshaw Mustang, which is going to take me a while to get used to, but I can't wait. The car looks epic. Driver of the day, I reckon Andre Heimgartner will probably get it for that day. Sunday, on board the Heimgartner hype train, I reckon he will get pole on the Sunday. Something different, but I reckon he as well as the car has the potential for it. Top 5 though, however, I think Anton will actually snatch the win from him, because I have a feeling he will have a good day Saturday, but I reckon there will be some dramas on Sunday in terms of Heimgartner. Whether there's a pit fail or a car fail or an incident, who knows? I don't think he'll end up in the top 5, maybe top 7 or something. I'm just going to put it down, probably 8th, I reckon he'll finish for the Sunday. But back to the top 5, Anton De Pasquale will win the Sunday. Shane Van Gisbergen second, followed by Davison. Feeney, I reckon he'll be 4th the Sunday. Of course, he won the race, the final race of the year at the Adelaide 500 last year. So I reckon he'll do quite well this weekend as well, hopefully. And then Cam Waters rounding up the top 5. For driver of the day Sunday, I reckon Mark Winterbottom will probably have a good result. I reckon he'll probably have an average qualifying, where he's just out of the top 10. But I reckon I can see him finishing 6th or 8th. I reckon he's got a pretty good racecraft, so no doubt I reckon I can see him doing that. So that is all. That is all for the preview. Very stoked for the weekend. Lots to look at. Lots to get excited about. Big day Friday, especially with the practice sessions. But we've also got the support categories. We've got Aussie racing cars confirmed. I know that for a fact, and I can't remember from the top of my head who else. But it's going to be an action-packed weekend. If you're at Newcastle, I highly recommend going. Do yourself a favour and go to the event. If you're in Adelaide, I highly suggest going to the Adelaide Motorsport Festival later this month. And that's all from me for today. Stay tuned for the report next week. I'll probably do it around same time as this week. If you're watching on YouTube, I'll probably have a separate report for Supercars and then a separate one for the Super 2-3 category. However, if you're listening on Spotify or I think Apple Podcasts, I'll just have it as one combined pod. So stay tuned for that. Let me know who you think will be leading the championship at the end of this weekend. I do reckon Shane Van Gisbergen is probably going to be dominant once again. But who knows? Anything can happen in this sport, and I cannot wait. So stay tuned for that. Enjoy your day, and have a good one. Bye.